Okay, I'm at 1475 Corry Street in Yellow Springs, Ohio. We're doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for anything that may concern the buyer, any structural issues or root intrusion. Access point is an outside clean out here, right outside. See the front door there. And so right here in the front flower bed. And so I'm going to try to go both directions. We're going to go upstream first, back towards the house. It's only a couple feet, but it does go right through the side wall of the basement. And then I'm going to see if we can get it to go there. It doesn't want to make that. I guess we're going to go downstream first, and then we'll take a look at that upstream in a second. So this looks like cast iron outside. I know it's PVC on the inside, going through the wall, so it must be PVC out to this point. And then it looks like cast iron, and we're going into clay. And that would have been normal. There must be something coming out underneath the crawl space in cast iron that ties in right there, and then we switches over to clay, which is normal for the age of the home. The biggest things are the most common things we find with clay lines. They're very strong and they last forever as long as the earth doesn't move a whole lot. But the biggest thing, the most common thing we find are roots, just due to the fact that you have a lot of, and you can see just a little tiny bit right there at that connection. But it's usually due to the fact that the lines are in 3-foot sections, and the stuff they use to pack around the joint, it shrinks or kind of loosens up over the 60 to 70 years, and starts allowing a little bit of root intrusion to make it through. Since they can find food and water all in one place, obviously trees love it. And here we go, a little bit of root intrusion here. It's not horrible, still getting in at a joint, but it's in about 38, 39 feet. Looks like evidence of some backups here. I've got a standoff on the camera and I don't want to get it stuck. It's already kind of, I'm going to have to take that off the camera, and we're going to go back down there because there's a pretty large amount of root intrusion here at about 45 feet. So we're going to pull back. I'm going to take this, take the standoff off the camera, and we're going to go back through. So I'm going to pause the video for a second and remove the little standoff off the front of the camera. So we remove the standoff, we go back through. And so we'll go through the first like 45 feet or so pretty quickly. since we've already seen that spot. And all this does look good structurally. A little bit of roots here at 38 feet, and then the major one was at 45. And this looks like a pretty big root ball in a way that it's kind of, I'm able to get through it with my camera, but hopefully we'll be able to get all the way out to the main. We'll be able to see this a little bit better on the way back. Again, it's not uncommon to find root intrusion. You just need to, usually maintenance is required for stuff like this because they'll continue to get in, so you may have to treat with a chemical or have it cleaned periodically. Usually I recommend having it cleaned initially and then treating it once a year with a root X, just to try to keep the roots down and keep them from growing thick enough to cause any issues or any structural damage. So I'm going to push all the way out to the main, and then hopefully we'll be able to rinse the camera off. And a lot of times you can see better on the way back. Still see bits and pieces of root intrusion at the seam, so it's pretty much the whole way. The only one that looked like it would need any kind of immediate action was at about 45 feet. That was big enough to where that's going to start catching solids and toilet paper and stuff like that. There are permanent solutions to the roots. You could have it lined or obviously replaced, but usually that's a pretty big undertaking and a lot of money. And so, in most cases, just on regular maintenance is normal for an old sewer line. So we're going to bounce this around a little bit here in the main. Pull back and hopefully we can see nice and clear on the way back here. So we're 105 feet out to the main, and we're going to try to make note of anything. So for the most part, the line did look good structurally. Everything is, it is keeping shape and would allow flow if there wasn't root intrusion. So starting at about 90 feet. There's a little bit there. That's kind of the only solution to something like that would be the chemical. You kind of hope that it catches, because it kind of foams up, and you would hope that it would catch on that, but it's not really doing anything as far as getting in the line to cause any issues right now. Pretty good amount there. I could use it if done well with a 4-inch double knife or saw blade. They could get into here and get rid of all this and and you could start from scratch and treat it, once a year with the with that chemical that I mentioned, and it should keep them in good shape. So you just want to be able to start start from a good spot, and then you can go from there as far as future maintenance or preventative maintenance, and it usually keeps you from having to do a whole lot of major work or have any backups or anything. There's a little bit more getting in from the top, 64, but that's very, very minor. There is 57 feet is a pretty big one. This will have to be cleared. Let's see, I think there's actually some loose stuff here, but kind of hard to tell. Try to rinse that off a little bit here. There we go. But these are the things that can catch, toilet paper, and we always recommend never to use wet wipes, because if they get stuck on this, it will cause a backup. Coming up to that 45-foot mark here shortly, and that was the other bad one right here. I'm actually going to pause the video for a second. I'm going to run a little bit of water so we can make sure that the camera lens stays rinsed off.
Let me turn the shower on.
Okay. So, did rinse the camera off, and but you can see the large amount of roots on here also. This was the one that we first ran into that I was unable to get my the camera through with the standoff, and so it looks like this is all getting in at the joint, but it'd probably be a good idea to have them also camera it after they clean it to make sure that there's no structural damage behind all this root intrusion, just the way that it's covering the walls of the pipe. So it does look like there might be a little bit of shift going on in the pipe there on the top left, and so I would make sure that it gets cameraed to make sure that there's no structural damage there on the top left of the, and this may have been cleaned, and then that's why the shape of the roots are like they are all around the outside. But you definitely have a couple spots that could cause backups, so I'm going to recommend a cleaning and a reinspection to ensure the structural integrity of the pipe in that area. Looks like pretty good coverage. They all do look like they're getting in at the joints, and so I believe for the most part the line is in good shape, but it looks like structurally the line is definitely holding shape. So if the roots weren't there, there'd be no obstruction, but we just want to make sure that there's no big hole or anything in the side of that pipe where all those roots are getting in. Most of the line looks really good. It's basically with when you get into the drip edge of that big tree on the other side of the driveway that the roots start getting in. So you can see there was the T-end of the shower coming into that little bit of cast iron before we exit it. And then we'll, again, now that we don't have that standoff on, I'm going to see if I can get it to go upstream now. Just doesn't want to. Here we go. So it looks like there's the line has sunk just a hair where they put this in under the porch where they replaced all this PVC. It's not an issue, it's not holding solids, it's just a little bit of water. But because that camera lens is only a ½ an inch off the bottom of the pipe, it looks like a ton of water. So, alright, so the only thing we found some roots at like 37, 45, 68, and 75, I believe. The root intrusion was pretty heavy in those areas, and so I'm going to recommend a cleaning. And then usually the people that can do the cleaning can do a re-inspection while they're here to look at it. Sometimes it'll be included just so that you can check to see if there's any structural damage being hidden by the root intrusion when it's that heavy. But I mean, other than that, the line looked like it's holding shape, and so it did look good structurally for the most part. You just have those couple areas where we just, you don't really know if there's any damage behind that root intrusion. So again, my recommendation would be a cleaning, a re-inspection, and then in the future, if everything is clear, you will have to do some regular maintenance, yearly chemical treatments to try to keep the roots down, or cleanings every 3 to 5 years if done well. But this is all fairly common stuff with sewer lines of this age and material, and so it's not something strange to find, but it is something that will require maintenance down the road. So that'll end the inspection at 1475 Corry Street in Yellow Springs, Ohio.